Hey everybody, Danielle here with The Sedge, and welcome back to another edition of the daily challenge that I am doing right now, which is all about throwing back to the last 4 years and digesting and discovering and articulating some of the lessons learned over those 4 years. The time span that I've been spending working on The Sedge and all of its related initiatives. And so today it's a little bit later than usual. They're working on our roof at our house, so it's quite loud here during the day. And also I was out in the afternoon at a really cool event that I'm going to talk about as I get into what I want to talk about today, because it connects in, and I was thinking about it while I was at the event and what I wanted to speak about today. And yeah, so the topic I wanted to cover, because we're in the 3rd year of lessons learned at this point, and it was a year where I took a bit of a different track and probably went against some advice of, if I had a one-on-one coach or mentor, they probably would have told me not to do this, but it felt like a good decision at the time. And I talk a lot about, and I think it was a good decision, I should clarify that. I think some big advice, and I'm still learning this, is focusing, right? So, sticking to one piece of your business that you're working on growing, just focus on that at one time. Or if you might be more like me, it's focusing on one business at a time, which if you've listened to any of my other broadcasts, you probably realize I'm not quite good at that at this point. I do see the value in focus, of course, and it's something that I am working on, and I want to be better at that because I think it's very sage advice. And obviously you can move a lot faster and get a lot greater momentum if you are, the more focused you are on one goal or one milestone or one objective that you're working towards. So that's natural. That makes sense. But today I want to talk a little bit about the flip side of that, and maybe some advantages or benefits or the value of getting outside of your bubble or switching up your environment. And for me, and maybe for some of you, that means that goes against the focus element, which, again, depending on your goals, your time frame, and where you're trying to go with your business and what stage you're trying to get it to, focus is definitely beneficial for all of those reasons. But if you take a little bit of a sidetrack or kind of reduce your time on that business a little bit, I think there are some benefits. And so I'm going to talk about that, because really what happened for me in this 3rd year was that I completely accidentally came across an opportunity to work with a wonderful local charity in Calgary, where I live. And, I wasn't necessarily seeking any opportunity like that, but it was really a coffee connection, or actually a relationship that I've had for a little while, introduced me to the new CEO. And after that connection, we really hit it off. And I was so excited about the new direction this organization was going. And it was one of those moments like, hey, I think we should work together. This could be really wonderful for everybody involved. And I definitely felt the same way. And it was definitely connected into social enterprise sphere and business planning and idea validation. All of those juicy subjects that I love to work on and talk about and teach through the Sedge and now through Changemakers Association. But this particular opportunity was a more hands-on role. It was a part-time contract to actually work on the foundations of setting up this social enterprise, this new initiative that this organization wanted to go forth with. And so that was really exciting. It was something totally different from what I had worked on before. And although it was detracting from some of the goals and milestones that I was working towards with the Sedge, it felt like a good fit, and I went for it. So for I guess the second half of that year, so the time frame is June to June, kind of that beginning January to June, I was taking on this role and had a lot of fun working on a social enterprise business from the ground up, from before, there was the seed of the idea, there was the seed of the mission. I mean, the mission was clear, but we needed to figure out how the social enterprise worked into the existing mission. And so it was a big project, and it was really, really fun. I am so glad that I took that opportunity to work on that with them. And so it was about a year total of contract work. And so I want to talk about some of the benefits of doing that. So yes, it detracts from maybe the goals of the sedge that I had at the time. Definitely slowed down, whatever milestones and projects I was working on within the sedge, because obviously I had less time to devote to that. Unbeknownst to me, it was also the same time period where Solène and I launched our second business. So, okay, don't listen to me about focus, you guys, because I still have a long ways to go. And part of that year was a lot of learning around focus. But anyways, back to the benefits of getting out of your bubble and out of your comfort zone. So one thing that I had really been craving that this opportunity granted, which was something I really needed at the time, was to work with a team, a face-to-face team, a team where I could be part of, the wonderful brainstorming and discussions and planning that happens when you're part of a team. So not just a social space, some solo entrepreneurs go work at a co-working space or something like that because they want the person-to-person interaction. I wasn't really missing that. I have a great friend network. I like working by myself. From an environment standpoint, I don't get squirrely if I'm in my own home office for too long or anything like that. But I missed the team collaboration. So working on my own was missing that. So, when you're coming up with a new project or making your plan for the next 6 months, it's amazing to have a team to make that with and to not be doing it on your own. And it's a little bit different when you're collaborating as equals or as not as just the leader, right? So of course I could, and I have hired different people to work with me on the sedge for different pieces of the puzzle, different projects, kind of ad hoc support and whatnot. But in those scenarios, I'm the boss. I'm the one hiring someone else to help me with something very specific. It's not a creative type of team environment. And that's what I was missing. Of course, in the future that could be built in terms of hiring a more permanent team or, a part-time staff member that you really love working side by side with. And by side, I don't mean physically, but maybe, you're still virtually checking in. And obviously, since I took on that role, Solène and I have a great team side by side working relationship with our other business. So I have more of that now. But anyways, at the time I was feeling like I really wanted that and was craving that. So being part of a team again for a contract was a great feeling. And I really loved the people that I worked with. And just to be surrounded by different conversations, different perspectives, different backgrounds. I was kind of the token strategy or business person on the team. And we had really diverse backgrounds. The four of us came together, I think, really well for great brainstorming, great collaborating, great coming up with new ideas. And then also when we went to implement, we really had a wonderful skill set across the board. And so it was nice to be part of that. And, along with those conversations, you really get a diversity of ideas. So that feeling of, again, not being in your own bubble by yourself. And it's different when you're working on a day-to-day project with other people. So of course, it's great to connect online with your peers. And you guys know that I'm definitely an advocate for that. I think that is super valuable. But it's a different level to work with a team on that day-to-day and really hash out your project together. That's where you have some really great brainstorming, and that diversity of all of the experiences and ideas that everybody brings to the table is something I really enjoy. And also, I think it's super inspiring and valuable for you to take that experience and bring it back into your own work that might be separate. So in my case, although the topic was related, my work for them was on that specific social enterprise, and it didn't necessarily directly relate to advancing the goals of the SEDGE, but just being a part of that type of initiative and having those great conversations really was a way to challenge myself to think about things differently and not, be having a conversation every day that reinforced what I already believed. So, of course, diversity brings us so much value in that way. So in the ideas and experiences and like I said, being challenged, like, well, you are assuming that we should go about it this way, but did you think of it this other way? Like, that's what you get when you're working on a team with diverse perspectives. So that's a huge value, getting out of your comfort zone, switching up your environment, and doing something a little bit different, like taking on a part-time contract that's complementary to the work that you do, but not necessarily fully helping it move forward. It helps you move forward as a person in different ways. And I think that inspiration, thinking about other missions or causes that, might be connected to what you're doing tangentially, it can really inspire some cool ideas for your work as you kind of put yourself in someone else's shoes. And which is kind of funny because that was the mission of the group that I was working with, is all about creating more opportunities for empathy and connection among people all over, in your community, in your existing network, and even with new strangers and that type of thing. So I really believed in the mission, and I think that experience helped me grow a lot as a person, and all of that can connect back into the work that I do with the SEDGE. So it was all worth it, for sure. And I think the thing I was thinking about today, I was at a wrap up of a social enterprise accelerator program that just ended in Calgary, which had a wonderful group of 7 businesses, some not-for-profit, some for-profit, who are in the early to mid stages of validating their ideas and growing their business. And so I was part of the mentoring group from the beginning. So I met most of them in the beginning and did a workshop very early on with the cohort. And then I wasn't really in touch with anyone for the last 6 months or so, and then went to the wrap up, the demo day, the pitch day today. And I was just so impressed with how much progress everybody made in that 6 months of the program. And you could tell that part of their growth, it was the mentors and the training, access to legal and banking, all of that type of thing. But it was also them learning about each other's businesses or being in touch with what the others were doing. I think it really expands your mind for what's possible in your own business when you put yourself outside of your bubble and into someone else's bubble. So, taking on contract work is one way to do that, or volunteering is another way to do that. Or for these guys, it was being part of that cohort and part of that program. Again, it's more than just a co-working space or like a community that you check in with online. It was literally, let's work on our businesses side by side, and everything you're thinking about approaching in your business, I can kind of step into your shoes and imagine what your perspective is. And then I can bring that back, that new perspective or that new light bulb, into my own work and see how that might shift my own decisions. So I think that diversity of environment, diversity of connections on the deeper level, on the kind of side-by-side strategic brainstorming level, can go a long way in helping you make some big breakthroughs in your own work. And just being aware of the vast, potential to do things differently than the way you might be doing them. And sometimes you don't realize that until you step out of your bubble, out of your environment, and surround yourself in something a bit different, something a bit new. And yeah, so that was what I wanted to talk about today, all about the value of doing that, even though it's probably better to focus on your own thing in balance. And I think the other thing too is go with your gut, and depending kind of where you're at in your journey, if you're feeling a bit lost or overwhelmed, sometimes you need that reset. And sometimes that reset can be going to do something totally different for a little while, or do something totally different for part of the time, just to kind of switch things up and shake things up and see where it takes you. And then you can go back into your own project or your own work with a bit of a different perspective, or a bit of a renewed perspective on where you're at from your point of view. So that's pretty much it for now. But let me know what you think. If you have any comments or questions, pop them in the chat. And hopefully over the next few days, I will find some good time to hop on here when the roof isn't falling down around me, because I don't think you guys want to listen to me while there's hammers and tools flying outside. Okay, so take care, and we'll talk soon. Bye.